Hi everyone, good morning. Welcome to Scalar Industry Connect. Just to give you context, what this series is all about. So, Scalar Industry Connect is a webcast series in which we converse with game changing leaders from the industry about a whole spectrum of topics related to technology, data science, job roles, opportunities, various other things. The topic for today would be revolving around driving intelligent decisions using data science. Okay, so just to set some context about data science and data scientists. So data scientists, it's a very fast growing field, and data scientists have been in a very high demand recently. The term was introduced some years back by data leads to companies in LinkedIn and Facebook. And today, we have a huge influx of data scientists working across various verticals. Today, we will discuss why data scientists are in constant demand with our industry specialists, Atul and Matangi. So just to give you a brief introduction about Atul and Matangi. So Mr. Atul Tripathi was a big data and artificial intelligence consultant in the National Security Secretariat, Prime Minister's office in New Delhi, working in the field of application of AI and big data for national security. Atul has 18 plus years of experience in AI, and his areas of experience include application of AI, data science, NLP, big data for banking and financial services, insurance, risk management, mathematical finance, fraud, anti-money laundering, national security, climate risk, sustainable development goals, shipping, and telecommunications. So after reading this introduction, I just hope that we had much more time today to speak with Atul and Matangi, but we are going to be limited to 1 hour for today. Next up, we have Matangi Shri, who is currently heading the data organization of GoFood, Gojek. Matangi has 17 plus years of track record in building world-class data science solutions and products, and has overall 20 patents grants in the area of intuitive customer experience and user profiles. In the past, Matangi has also built data science teams across other large organizations such as Citibank, HSBC, GE, and some tech startups like PhonePe and 247.ai. So welcome both of you, Matangi and Atul. Thanks for joining us today, and looking forward to speaking with you and hosting you. So, Matangi, can you maybe please tell us, like, what is it that you like the most about data science or leading a data science organization?
Yeah, so over my career, I have had the opportunity to deliver, machine learning at enterprise scale, data science impacts at enterprise scale. So, making a difference to the business or making a difference to a customer's life, or sometimes bringing a smile on the customer's face through data and technology, and being part of this building the solution is what makes it very exciting for me. And I have actually seen the shift through my career of how human assisted, basically human led and data assisted solutions change to data driven and human governed solutions that we are there, right? So from where people said, hey, I think the market is like this and this is the hypothesis, let's use data to test, validate, or confirm these hypotheses, to a period of time where the hypotheses themselves are generated, and nobody's in a lot of use cases in machine learning, we're not even talking about hypothesis. We are trying to make micro decisions at scale, across different customers, across different geographies, and things like that, right? And so many micro decisions at a variety of these micro decisions happen at different use cases from the same organization. So it's a it's something truly that has transformed over the years, transformed decision making process, right? And to be part of this, so to say, a revolution in terms of decisioning, I feel motivated to be part of that.
Great. Atul, same question to you. Like, you have a very interesting background. Like, what is it that excites you about data science and leading the entire nation in data science?
Thank you, Mudit. Hello, Matangi, and hello, everybody. Good morning. And what really excited me in my career was the 3.5, 4 years that I spent at the National Security Council Secretariat, which is a part of the Prime Minister's office. Uh, that was the first time I realized the power of data science and the change that it can bring in somebody's life. In terms of real saving of lives. How can you predict what is going to happen tomorrow with the view that you're going to save somebody's life? And there's nothing more precious in today's world than life. And this is something that coronavirus has taught all of us. Nothing is more precious than the human life. I would say I've been very fortunate, and I would like to, I don't know, how do I put it up in any words, I would like to just say thank you to everybody who's given me the support from in every angle of life. Uh, the fact that you can save lives today, you can see that I've started work a lot in the sustainable development goals of the United Nations and all. How can you apply technology to solve real life problems of climate change, of making sure that every child has access to quality education, every the earth is saved, and technology is being applied, and we can apply that. So getting very, very close to the real life problems itself, which is going to have a deep impact and a direct impact on our lives. That is what is exciting me more and more as we go forward. So, yes, technology is playing an important role. I will not deny about it. I will not say that it's not an important thing. It is playing an important role. So text-based, unstructured analysis, and all that stuff. That does happen. But the impact analysis, where you can touch somebody's real life, that is what is going to be the game changer. So, even if you are able to say bring 5% of the children who have dropped out of this schooling education system because of the coronavirus, if you can bring them back into the schooling education system, or even if you can give them an education system that is education that is worth their life, that is a big impact. If you can save even do any simple analysis of how data technology can be applied to save water, that is a big area. These are exciting times, and these are exciting areas I feel that one can apply and one should apply technology to solve these kind of real time problems.
Thank you, Adil, for sharing that. Just sharing how impactful data science can be in not just improving lives, but also saving lives. And especially, as you pointed out, we've seen over the last couple of years how like forecasting and predicting where the biggest need is going to be, whether it's in terms of supplies or oxygen cylinders or whatnot, how critical the role of a data scientist can be. So Atul, next question is also for you. Like, how do you think data science is different in corporate versus public domains, in public policy versus corporate?
So, I mean, see, essentially the technology, underlying technology is not going to change. It does not change, to be very truthfully telling you. So, whether it is public policy or whether it is corporate world, the technology remains the same. So, I'm going to use the same techniques of national NLP based techniques, same analytical techniques, same forecasting measures, whatever you want to call it. What changes is the context of the game. So, I mean, like, let me put it this way, and I like to give this example as well, and I'm sure everybody loves a cake, a good cake. So, when we go to a birthday party, we say, I've had a good cake, I've had a lovely cake. Why do we say that? Two reasons: the bread of the cake and the icing on top of it. So, the bread of the cake is very essential, right? If you don't get the bread of the cake, right, then if it's soggy, if it's hard, then we'll never enjoy the cake. So, the bread of the cake is the context of the problem solving, and the icing is on top of it is the technology. So the only thing that changes is the context. So when you see a different desires of goals to be achieved in case of a public policy. In case of corporate, the goals are slightly different, but the underlying technologies remain the same. So the icing remains the same. It's just the bread that is changing. The second point and important point is the nature of data that you get. Now, governments are generally legacy systems. They have a lot of data, they have a lot of information, they have a lot of things. But how do you collate all of them? How do you organize everybody? How do you bring everybody on board and make sure that people appreciate that this technology can bring a life change to somebody's policy governance impact on the life of people? That is very, very important. That is a big game change that I see. So the impact factor is very huge in case of it's on a larger scale in case of human beings and governance system compared to corporate. It's not that it's not there in the corporate, just that the scale changes. That's all.
Thanks. Matangi, next question for you. Like, what are the differences that you have noticed in the way different companies implement data science? So, like some common pitfalls or like best practices that you might have seen.
So more than different companies, right? What makes the difference between different companies is the stage of the company. It's not the sector of the company. So, like, let's say a rank startup, and they are getting into data science. Most likely, or some level of objectives, but you're not super clear on the goal and the metrics, etc. And let us say if it's and also there would be lags like the overall infrastructure for getting these models at scale and things like that. So those are part of learning exercise in a rank startup when they begin the data science journey. But let's say it's a mature setup which has good amount of data flowing in, then it's a lot more easier to plug in new data science solutions in that kind of a setup. And the support for it, you have much more clarity in terms of how you measure these solutions, how you do experimentations, how do you evolve over these solutions, right? So that could be different between different companies, more in terms of the stage of the organization itself. In terms of sectors, yeah, so for example, some of the digital native companies, you see more data science adoption there, because data is native to the way of conducting business, right? So for instance, an e-commerce company doesn't need to do anything special to capture data, because that's how they run this, right? And you'll see a lot of folks in the company, even remotely related with data science, talking data, right? Whereas in a not so digital native company, data itself needs to be adopted. So people are even if it's a mature organization, been there for a while, people are still talking about how to create data lakes, where should you what kind of data marts you should have, the investment in data engineering itself, even before they start their initial POCs on data science, right? So digitally, it also differs based on digitally native or not digitally native. And like I said, it does differ based on the stage of the company. But it is also a culture, data science leadership in this space can build, right? Whichever company or whichever growth stage you're part of, it's important to drive impacts. It's important to keep an eye on it. It's important to make systems more attributable, and set up the right experimentation so that whatever solutions you're driving, even if it is a small incrementality, that can be proven with much clarity, than starting a solution for doing the solution for the sake of the solution, right? So that will kind of differentiate the impacts that you're creating across the landscape of these of so to say the companies in this space.
Got it. Got it. So, next question, Atul, for you. A lot of the people in the audience are aspiring data scientists. So, we wanted to know from you what are the most challenging aspects of data science or leading data science, especially in the public policy context? And maybe if you have any specific example or instance, that would also be very helpful. But otherwise, like in general, what are the challenges?
So, if you look at the public policy context, one is making people aware of the power of data science. See, as Matangi said, legacy companies, old companies, they have their own beauty setups, they have their own systems that are running. Whereas the digital startups, they have their own. At the very initial stages itself, they are collecting data, they're collecting information, then they're processing information. That's how they're making decisions. So, if you look at the government, it's a legacy system, right? The government continues in perpetuity; it never stops. So the government never stops. How do you make sure that governments understand and the decision makers appreciate that this is what the new technology is? So everybody is aware of it, but you have to convey your story. So I cannot go to a non-technical person and convey to him in terms of technology and model building and all that stuff. So I have to be a storyteller. So one of the big things that any data scientist aspiring to be there in the public policy, I would definitely suggest that please do two things. One, be an excellent storyteller. Please tell people this is what the data science world can do for you. And you have to bring in a context, right? So you cannot go about selling, say oranges in the month of June. Doesn't make sense. People will not buy. Mangoes is what people buy. So let's put it up this way. That's point one. Point two is you have to then tell people that, see, you are applying technology. Everybody's applying technology. The world is applying technology, and this is where they have moved on to. So you have to bring out that point. Third is, see, you have so much of legacy data out there, but can you please help us understand the data? Can you tell that what data looks like even? That itself is a big challenge. Most of us say we have data, we have this, but people don't understand what is the data. How does it look like? So just imagine you have 1,000 small boxes, 100 cross 100. Now, how many of them are red dots and how many of them are green dots? Let us say red dot indicates a absence of data and green dot indicates a presence of data. So can you even do that simple storytelling of data itself? If you have done that part, you are a winner in the public policy context. Then obviously there comes in the questions of building up more complex systems, more demanding, challenging problem solving statements and all that stuff. So there are these kind of things that you need to take care of. And you're also working with the government departments. You have to bring everybody on board. You have to have the patience. You have to convey a story. So patience is the key in working when we are working in a public policy. You should not get too excited. Why are things not moving? Things move in their own framework, in their own systems. You'll have to have the patience. And we often tend to think in the digital world, why do I need to have a file work done? All those file work, this is all red tapeism, bureaucracy. But trust me, when I was prior to that, even I used to think that, why do we need this red tapeism? Why do we have this bureaucracy? And why do we have this? And why do we have that file system and all? But now I realize, why do we have it? I am no more a part of the system, but my work exists and it has been noted down somewhere. And that is why it is very important. So having patience, ability to story tell, ability to give out data points, this is very important.
Got it. So like stakeholder management and making
Very
sure that we have support from the entire team.
Yes, you'll have to bring the support from the team. You'll have to bring everybody on board.
So it's not just about the technical skills. There's also some aspect of soft skills.
No. It's a huge human manpower management system you're looking at. So you learn, your learning curve just jumps like anything. Trust me on this. My learning curve jumped a huge. So my vision, my horizon itself has changed. So when I look back at my work, I can see the impact that it has brought in. And when I look at, I don't look at, I made an impact to 5% of the company's revenues or 10% of the company revenue. What I look back at, I made a life change difference to 1.3 billion people on the earth. And trust me when I say this, because I cannot reveal a lot of nature of work that I've done, but considering the work, that it did make a difference to somebody's life.
Excellent. Okay, Matangi, same question for you. What are the most challenging aspects of data science or leading data science? Any specific example would be great. General is also fine, but in corporate setting.
Okay, so adoption is not as bad as in public policy. So we don't start with the red and green dots. Certainly, there is, especially digital native startups, you do have plenty of data, right? And from the outside, it does look like everyone understands data science and machine learning, and then you just need to plug in algorithms and move on, right? That's not the case. That is also wrong. You see, finally everyone gets motivated by what their goals are. So if you're talking to a person from a business team, you need to understand what their goals are and how that can be met. And hence, as much as there is understanding and people know what data science does, and to some level things about AI. Uh, if the large scale solutions needs to be run, people need to go with the mindset of to certain degree educate the stakeholders, to certain degree moderate your solution so that the solutions actually make a difference to the business. So as in anything else, problems come first and the data comes next, right? So it is very important that people in this space have the sensitivity to work with stakeholders, understand their point of view, but also challenge certain assumptions. Because see, remember, we are changing decision making process, right? And that's one thing humans just don't want to let it go, or you don't want to even change your regular frame of decisioning. So that does have a change. However, wherever you come from, whatever kind of organizations that you have been part of, if you're going to say, hey, this machine, now you have been taking decisions. So let's even take a case of which very commonly happens in tech startups, is that there is a, let's say there is a routing algorithm which had certain framework and certain way of operating these algorithms. Even change in a routing algorithm would require enough number of proof points, evidence, to say this would work, and after all this, an experimentation to make sure it works, right? Or take, for instance, underwriting. Let's assume that underwriting is done through a bunch of people who are experts in this field, and then you are kind of now doing credit decisioning, what these people, what the underwriters used to do, and that is being taken over by machine. This problem, for instance, is solved for a long time now, right? Really long time. The advanced markets like US has been solving this for a really long time. But let's say a fintech company starts, then they want to change this process. They acquire an NBFC or something like that, and then they change the process. Still, right, the models have to now you are replacing an if then else rule, which was very understandable, with the black box model, right? Which says, I will do whatever it is, but we do not know how it does. How much ever explainability you have, that is what is the core of it. So the risk, the CRO or your risk manager, whomever you're dealing with, VP risk, who has to let go of this conventional rule-based system to a model-based system, is still have to go through the change management in their head, right? And they are looking for evidences to do that. So whether it is through offline experiments or through real-time experiments, you do have the challenge and the mandate to make sure that they understand, what they are signing up for, right? So if data scientists start appreciating the fact that, hey, we're not building algorithms, but we are building things that changes decisioning frameworks, then the sensitivity of this issue. So that I would call as the possibly the biggest thing that needs to be internalized, and the skill set to drive change management on decisioning frameworks.
Great. So, like data scientists, since they have such a large impact, and possibly like changing even the direction of the entire company, like change management also becomes very important, right?
Yeah.
Next question, Atul, for you. Like, how do you identify great data scientists from the rest? Like, what are some common traits?
So it's a difficult one, I have always believed that a data scientist should be a storyteller. You're telling somebody's story, right? Let's be frank. So whose story are you telling? You're telling the story of the data. So whenever I'm trying to recruit a new person, let's go through this exercise of recruiting a new person to a team, bringing a new person into the team. How do you do that? So I never ask them questions, tell me what is the logistic regression, let me ask where, how do you calculate all that? That is, everybody can do it. Come on. That's not a big deal of life. My standard techniques is, here is a data set. This is a raw data. Do whatever you want to do. Come back tomorrow and tell me what you have done. Let me see how good story can you tell me and how can you explain it to me. As Matangi said, you have to bring out that point of storytelling. You have to bring out the change factor. What is the change that you're trying to bring into life, somebody's life? What is the change that you're trying to adopt? So can you bring that point out? If somebody is able to do that, see, most of the times we tend to get too carried away with model building and with a lot of stuff which is not required, which is like, we get too as data scientists, we get too carried away with, I want to make the most complex model on the earth. That's not what the job of a data scientist is. The job of a data scientist is to simply tell a story and to convey the story in the simple terms. So very simply, I will go to the CEO, he'll tell me that, boss, I don't have time for you. The board is eating up my head. You tell me, how will you make my business grow next 1 year? Here is a budget. Tell me, in 1 year, how will you make my business grow by 10%? Help me out. And don't come back and tell me stories about what models you built and what things you did and all that stuff. That is of no use. So therefore, you have to tell that story in an organized fashion and put it up in a simple words. If somebody can do that, I have spotted a great data scientist. Very simple
Great.
things. I don't believe in very complicated stuff. Keep it plain, simple stuff. That's it. You're a winner. Anybody who can do that, and obviously then there is mathematics involved. You need to understand the mathematics. You need to understand the computer science behind it. There's a lot of other stuff, but at the initial stages, if you are able to do that, you're a winner. You're a simple winner by any given standards of data science.
So there's a data science and there's a data art. So you're
There's a
saying that
big,
the
big.
art
Oh my
is
God,
also
art is very important. I mean, that's a very, very important point of life. You're selling somebody's story. The story is that of a data. Can you put it up?
great. Great. Matangi, what does a great data scientist look like? What are the traits?
So I will start from the point of this art and science. I do also think it's a combination of both. It's a field where left and the right brain come together. So key things that I would look at is understanding of data, their ability to have an intuition to data, right? That's important. Second thing is the problem, understanding of the problem, how they are able to come out and draw solutions to the problem. But algorithms are also equally important, and their in-depth understanding of algorithm. So I'll give you an example, right? Let's say we are building a simple regression model to predict time of delivery of food, expected time of arrival. Right now, it becomes a regression model. There are standard metrics of regression model: mean absolute error, mean absolute percentage error, so on and so forth. Now, depending on the business context, you do need to pick the right metric. Right? That's one part of understanding what is going on in the algorithm, and hence which metric to pick up for optimizing it. But if a person can understand even further, they would be able to get better gains by adjusting, for example, the loss function. So can we make the loss function, which the model is optimizing internally, to make it very suitable for business? Those gains can come in if you really understand what the model is doing and what it is not doing, right? Or take, for instance, the classic comparison of XGB versus neural network, right? In one case, you could have a lot of missing values, and like in XGB, but in neural network you cannot. And how you handle missing values become extremely important for how the model produces. So it is not fill it, shut it, forget it kind of thing in what they say in auto ML and things like that. These things work in tandem, right? So how you handle missing values and how you do feature transformations, whether your features has leakage, etc., has a complete correlation on your output. Let's say if you're using mathematically involved models like neural networks, etc., so that ability to differentiate and to use different things, that's very important, and that's what the algorithmic knowledge brings in. That if you have it, makes what you are doing more, you could appreciate it more, right? So you gain more knowledge about the algorithm as you practice it, and the practice helps you develop your algorithmic knowledge better as well. And as you practice this more, you become a better practitioner and person who could solution things much better, and architect data science solutions better, right? So hence algorithmic knowledge is also important, right? The fourth piece of it is also your thinking, so to say, and not so much spoken about, is on experimentation and metrics. How do you experiment this? How do you set up the experiments, especially in large scale systems? If you want to really make a difference with these models, how are you going to recommend an experimentation to your stakeholders? How are you going to pull up these experimentation results? More importantly, also, how do you measure your test and control groups? What kind of metrics you should look for? What kind of metrics you should advise your this problem stakeholders to start looking out at? At some level, it is not only order taking kind of work a data scientist does. They're also challenging the ecosystem in which it is operating. So, and hence the understanding of metrics and that common sense is also extremely important. So to summarize, data, algorithm, and understanding of metrics, those are important. Of course, on the softer aspects, passion towards what you're doing and the spirit of learning will take you further.
Just
No
to
worries.
take on the couple of points I would like to stress on, and this is very important. As data scientists, we tend to get too carried away with science part of it, not the business part of it. So my request to every aspiring data scientist is to please understand the business. Very, very important, And second and most important point is, please do not forget your mathematics and statistics. Statistics is the key. Why? I'll give you an example, and it's a bit of, I don't know how do you put it up. So I consider myself like an astrologer. Why do I say that? Because I'm saying that an event is going to occur and with an X probability. So if I look out of my window today and it's in Delhi, uh, it's a bright sunny day. So 99.9% chances it will not rain. Then there is a 0.1% chance it will rain. How do I say that? That's a probability. I can only say it when I've understood the data. So that means I've understood every aspect of statistics out there. And therefore I can say build a model on probability. That is the key. This is very big things that a lot of aspiring data scientists miss on. One, understanding the business context, and two, the probability game. Please don't do that. You will never ever become a great data scientist if you want to be. That's my humble request to everybody.
This actually compels me to add a comment. Before creating the Scalar Data Science course, we spoke with 100 data scientists. And I've spoken personally with like 50 of them in India, US, and Singapore. And the biggest insight that we have is that data science, although seems to be a technical role, you need to understand the business. And in fact, the entire course that we have now, I was telling Matangi before the session that it is built in a series of 25 business cases. We always start with the business problem, not with the algorithm or the model. Next, wanted to also ask you like the flip side of this question. Like what are the gaps that you see in the new data scientists or aspiring data scientists or students in terms of the skills or the mindset for becoming a data scientist?
So, see, we addressed that in the previous question, but if somebody has to pick up the skills, and I'm kind of keeping some of interns and freshers that I have worked in my career. So one of the things is there's a lot of enthusiasm, right? So that I should appreciate that. It's a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of things to learn. Moderate that a little bit with the practicality of like Atul mentioned the word patience, right? Do like learning is one thing about learning is that you learn when you least expect it to, right? So you should be, if you're open to learning, you will learn experience, you will learn these different experiences. So especially people coming from academia into this field, or people who have done computer science background and then jumping into this field are coming with the notion of, hey, can I publish the next research paper by doing this project? Though we do innovate at scale in a lot of places, in the tech startups area especially, but delivery is the key, right? You have to make sure you are getting the business impact. So be open for those kind of learning, what a company gives you as compared to an institution, right? As much as we want to innovate and try to do state of the art, one of the key things that you should be open about is uh, how practical and how quick your solutions can adapt, right? So on the softer skills is some polishing required as data science folks come in. Uh, be patient, and as well as look out for, be open to learn. Don't come with a framework of, I'm going to learn ABCD. You will learn all of that, but you will learn a lot more of how do you deliver data science at scale, right? And that's very different from writing an academic research paper. It's not one over the other. It is like both have their own space of operation, and that needs to be understood. So that requires a mindset. See, it's not like you're done learning at any point in time. You are learning, and when I mean learning, I'm not only meaning learning on tech skills and learning on a new algorithm. You're also learning how to take a very solid mathematical concept to an extremely practical and a business first, possibly a hockey stick growth organization. That trying to diffuse that knowledge into this space is something you would learn, and be just open for it. That's the thing I would say as possibly the skills people should come. Nowadays people talk about unlearning, right? So that starts not after 10 years of experience. It starts even when you're 1 year into the system. You are going to unlearn some of your expectations that you had about this field, but just be open about it and let the field take you to its natural course. Yeah, of
Great.
course, on the hard skill sets, yeah, you learn your Python, your machine learning, algorithms, statistics. Those would be on the hard skills. But soft skills, just be ready to unlearn.
And the other same question, like what are the gaps in new data scientists?
So one of the things that I like, as Matangi said, they're very enthusiastic about building a new model. So when I joined this field and I joined way back in 2003, I was of the view that I'll build a gun that is going to fire every day, and I'm yet to build the gun, and I have doubts I'll ever build that gun. To be very very precise. Now, why I brought this example of gun? It was not exactly in terms of gun, real gun, but in terms of model. So we tend to think, oh, I'll build a model that is going to solve all my problems. So one, it's what we call a Sanjeevani booty. So you'll never get that. Two, please understand there is a word called as science associated with data. Now, if you go back, close your eyes, go back to class 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, whatever, even if you've done your graduation, post graduation in various areas of science, please go back. Science is all about experimenting and failing. There is a fundamental difference between engineering and science. We tend to think this is as an engineering problem. This is not an engineering problem. This is a science problem. Science is all about success and failure. And you have to convey that to the leadership as well. That conveying factor has to come from you. That has to come when you are confident about itself. It's not that I have always been successful all the time with 100% predictions. No, I've also failed. But I've also had the conviction to go up to somebody and say, I failed because of these reasons, and therefore I'll take this much of time to begin, come back to you with the right solution. So failing is not a negative aspect of life. I request everybody. Science is all about experimenting and failing. Please remember, Albert Edison's very famous words, I failed 99 times to realize that there are 99 ways of not making a bulb. And this is something I learned when I was in IIT Kanpur as a research scientist. That was a place where I learned what is the difference between engineering and science. Very, very important. So please be ready for that. Young enthusiastic people, they are not willing to accept failure. Failure is a part of life in every aspect of life, and so is data science part of life. Two, very important. I wish that, and I hope that a lot of data scientists and young and aspiring ones gave a lot of the stress on the business aspect, the problem solving aspect of it. And three, very, very important is please convey your story. So how do you convey your story? I don't want to do visualization. That's not up to my standards. I'm sorry, but whose story are you selling? It's not your story, it's data story. How do you convey it to somebody if you don't do a visualization? You just go down to some of the famous D3JS and all these public tableau.com. Just go there and just see how beautifully they tell a story. Even if you look at an infographic, how beautiful we like it. That's been done by a data scientist. That is very key, big key, which I am sure the young scientists and aspiring will be taken care of in companies.
Great. Satal, next question for you as well, and after that, same question to you, Matangi. So, like sometimes, like when we're speaking with engineering students, they think that data science is for business graduates, and when we speak with business graduates, they say it's for computer scientists. What is the ideal background, or is there any ideal background for data science?
So let me answer this question another way. There's a room, it's dark, multiple people, elephant in the room. Somebody is touching the trunk saying this is the elephant, somebody is touching the tail, the person is saying this is the elephant, another person touches the stomach, says this is the elephant. That's what is happening. Please understand another important aspect, and this everybody misses out, it's not a one-man game. So we are not Bond, James Bond. No Time to Die has been released, so that does not mean we have become James Bonds. Point one. Point two, please understand, even behind James Bond, there is an entire team of Q and his team that is standing. So behind the data scientist, there is a huge amount of people that is there. So there's business, there's mathematicians, there is statisticians, there is visualization people, there's a storyteller. So there's a huge thing. It's a team game. You don't win, you don't lose. The team wins, the team loses. very important. So it's a space for everybody. We tend to think this is a space only meant for computer science graduates, mathematicians, statisticians, this, that. No. How do I don't have a very good sense of colors, by the way. I mean, for me, I don't know, orange and black and yellow and blue would be. I don't know, but sometimes when I see a graphic, I get so mesmerized. Oh wow, how beautiful this would be. But that is something an arts graduate can do because he or she has a sense of colors. So there is a space for everybody, and it's not a one-man game; it's a team game. So please try and appreciate that. And there is a space for everyone out here. Everybody is trying to apply that. So that is one big thing. We tend to overlook all these things, but it's a very important point. That's the
Great.
important point. We should not ignore.
Great. Matangi, what do you think?
So engineering background kind of helps, but that's not important. So what is important is uh, passion for maths. Without that, this field, it's difficult, right? Passion for maths is definitely important, and that can come from any background. I would say, like be it arts or be it from engineering or you are a management graduate, all of that helps. But importantly, see, you're going to deal with large number of data. You're always looking at charts. You're always making decisions based on which way you're going, etc. It is just numbers. You're always looking at metrics. You're always computing formula in your head. Over a period of time in your life itself, you'll realize you're looking everything as a set of functions, and then you're looking at optimizing. It does happen, right? So that can come only if you have flavor for numbers. So as long as you have flavor for numbers and the ability and the aptitude to think logically, right? You can try this field, whichever background you are coming from. Of course, the industry itself is little biased towards engineering, biased towards engineering from certain institutes and campuses, but that's definitely changing. As long because this is an open field, the knowledge is out there, and people can gain it. There are enough data sets that you can practice with sheer passion. You can crack a job and get in and begin your journey, so that's possible, right? But what is the one thing you should ask yourself if you are an aspiring data scientist, and be very truthful to that do you love math? Can you live a life in which maybe 10 hours, 12 hours you're just seeing numbers and nothing else, right? Can you do that? And that's possibly the hard part of it, or that's possibly the fun part of it. So it's important you make a career which is fun to live with rather than hard to live with, and hence passionate and just being math obsessed is a good starting point to make a career in data science.
Great. Thanks for sharing those insights. Next, I wanted to ask you again, like in the audience, we have aspiring data scientists. Like, what advice would you give to these aspirants to build a strong profile? And let's assume that the goal is to get a good job in data science. So like, should they be working on like projects at the like on their own, or try to get internships, or get a data science certification, or participate in hackathons, etc.? And a follow up, like, what are some good resources?
Okay, I'll go on this. So, see, one thing, understand it's heavily competitive industry, especially at the entry level. It's also given that the knowledge just became available, there is no it also it increased, it kind of, so to say, decreased the entry barrier, and a lot of people can learn this. Anyone can learn it, but to get into a job, it kind of made things difficult because it's become very competitive. So be at it. Just make sure you are fundamental, even if you know only 4 5 algorithms. Make sure you understand that well, right? Make sure you can do stochastic gradient descent, if not by hand, by through Excel at least. For example, just saying that. And make sure that you are doing enough hackathons, or working on enough data sets that is freely available. That will get you started. Then even applying business problem to data, to real world, applying business problem and data sets to real world problem, that is also more or less spoken in a lot of forums like these, there in the internet. Go through, read about all of this. Ask yourself if you are in for it, definitely. and then start applying through internships. That's one way to convert some of these into a job. Participate in high eyeballed hackathons once you are done with the basics, etc. That could also give you an edge over the field. Reach out to people on LinkedIn, figure out and just search for it. You will get it, right? So you're going to work, especially if it's not directly through campus placements and things like that. For entry level folks, it is, except it's a challenge, but it is possible to convert your knowledge into a job, if you work hard enough for it. In terms of, yeah, certifications do help, because there is a structured way of learning. There's a lot of unstructured information out there. So even for you to understand a learning path, to learn this course in a structured way, it certainly helps, as long as, and you see, some of these courses are do it at your own will. So it's important that you committed discipline and complete these courses. So if you do all of that, and if you do your regular assignments, etc., in any course that you take, that definitely helps you to structure your knowledge, go through a certain fashion of thinking, and then after that it's your practice. Just keep practicing with data sets, hackathons, and then start approaching companies. Some of the material out there, some you could look at some of the academies that is doing these certifications, etc. But also, as you get into the field, then there are some of the common blogs of data science that many people use. That becomes your possibly that becomes your the maximum time spent on websites that you do with, right, like your Data Science Central or Analytics Vidya, things like that, where you constantly learn and update your knowledge from. So those would be, that is after possibly you crack a job. But till then, take a course, structured course, do your hackathons, start talking to people, and explore the internet to learn more.
Great. And like before asking the same question to Atul, wanted to ask you, Matangi, a rhetorical question just for the audience. Are there enough data science jobs available for me?
A lot of statistics do say that there are definitely a lot of data science jobs available. I don't so much follow these numbers, but I just keep hearing them. But what I can say from my experience is that there are a lot of data science problems to be solved, right? And we have just really scratched the surface of the problem. Every problem, again, is not only vision, voice, and text. There is a lot of problem that can be just solved with structured data, like personalizations and so on and so forth. That I gave you an example of a simple regression problem that takes months for us to solve, right? What looks like in a hackathon, maybe in 2 days you can solve it. In real world, it does take few months to get the first solution out, with the deployment challenges, so on and so forth, as well we have on it. Yeah, so so there is enough jobs available. There are enough opportunities to be converted the decision making to a data driven decision. Yes, so the opportunity is plenty.
Great, great. So Atul, same question for you. How should fresh data science aspirants be preparing? What are some good reasons?
So one of the things that I would request everybody is to please start with your mathematics. I beg everybody. You're playing the game of data science. Science is all about experimenting and failing, and the fundamentals of science lies always on mathematics. And this is a game of probability. So we are not, when we say statistics, I don't mean median mode. Our understanding of science, statistics ends out there, but statistics is a very large subject. Please appreciate that subject. Understand all the data points, understand what the underlyings are, try and understand the distribution measures, how do you apply, when do you apply, what do you apply. That's point one. Point two, you get enough data sets, look at interesting ones. Let me give an example. I'm trying to work something on air quality index and ozone problems, but even to get a simple model out of it, predict, it really takes a lot of sweat out of me, and requires a lot of thinking and research on me. So I've been reading a lot of papers on how air quality index is actually being monitored. What are the scientists talking about? Simple things. Put it up on LinkedIn. Put it up on your social media handles, Twitter handles, Facebook handles, whatever you places you have. Advertise your good work. Third is learn from open source. Enough material available on YouTube and other media channels. Follow a particular thing and end to end. Completely do it. And fourth, very importantly, if you get an opportunity to do a good data science certification, please do it. But ultimately, it's your learning that is going to be happening. We tend to think I've done this certification, end of the story, I'm a data scientist. I am sorry. I would beg to completely differ to with anybody who thinks that way. Data science is all about yourself, nobody else. So you have to internalize, you have to think, you have to keep on thinking on a problem till you get to the solution of the problem. So you must take it up as a challenge rather than anything else. That is the key to the starting point. If you really want to aspire to be a good person in this field, there are enough jobs, there are enough problems to be sorted out, as Samatangi said. There's a lot of things that we can do. Public policy, government systems, everybody needs it. Even the government has started to realize the power of data science. Therefore, I would request kindly take these things in a bit organized manner. Be serious with yourself. Just think. That's it. Nothing more than it. If you can be a thinker, you can be a doer.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for sharing your insights. Just one last question before we conclude this. So, Matangi, like as we are building the data science and machine learning track at Scalar, what tips do you have for us? Like, what should that track look like? What are the common gaps that you might have seen in other online boot camps, etc.? Like, what are the things that we should keep in mind?
You said this earlier, like interesting that you're doing this course based on just business cases. Think that will definitely help. I'm assuming to have some theoretical foundation also will help. Maybe a good start would be a coverage of a little bit of theoretical foundation, etc., and some practical exercises on Python, especially with data frames and scikit-learn and some of the common libraries that we use, followed by a good pack on business use cases. Also, a tip would be to little bit focus more on metrics. That's not so much focused really, right? Like, except for saying, hey, regression has these 3, 4 metrics to measure, or you measure a classification problem, or you do a multi-class through F1 score, etc. I don't think a lot of courses has in-depth discussions, because that's what happens with metrics. In-depth discussions on different metrics and why certain metrics would suit for a certain problem, and also a primer on experimentation itself, right? How do you do experimentation at scale? Why are experimentations important? Some introductions on design of experiments. Unfortunately, a largely forgotten concept, but it's very useful uh, to help conduct large scale experiments. Would and maybe some brush up on causality, right? Because a lot of times you are asked the question, why is the sales low, why is certain things why is the transaction volume low, or why are certain segment of users not purchasing, etc. The why question of it, I don't know how much the courses covered. So that could also be an addition to the regular thing. These are some of the things I've observed, so I've just told. I don't know how much Scalar covers. Maybe you covered some of these, but that's from my side.
No, yeah, that's great. So, in fact, we do have that specific problem. So we use data from an e-commerce company, and the exact problem statement is that the sales are going down. Figure out what's wrong.
Okay, I see.
And in
I
fact,
see.
Atul, like you had also mentioned, one problem, interesting problem about air quality index and ozone. That is also one of our business cases. We've partnered with one of the startups that has best-in-class data on on environment, and that's one of the first business cases that we're actually covering. We also have a business case also on public policy, by the way, not just business. So Atul, same question to you. Like, what should we keep in mind as we are developing this track?
I would suggest that while you're developing this case study based approach, one of the big things that you need to appreciate, I would say your participants need to appreciate is the understanding of the problem. So a lot of reading would be required, not only from the technical side, but from the problem statement solving side. So what is air quality index? What does it mean? What would it mean to anybody? What is an air quality index? What are the parameters? Do we really need xylene, benzene, toluene as parameters, or are they extra? Is carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide the only two parameters that you need to consider? And nitrogen dioxide that you need to consider. What are the scientists talking about it? What do they think? Simple things. Only when you read across on these subjects, more depth you'll be able to get, and more you'll be able to appreciate why do you need to calculate certain parameters, when do you need, how much weightage. Even if you're doing a linear regression problem, I'm doing a simple linear regression problem on air quality index. How much weight should I give on my carbon monoxide and how much should I give on my nitrogen dioxide? Simple thing. I don't know. I'm not a climate scientist myself. I have to read a lot. I have to understand from 50 different sources, YouTube, online media channels, listen to experts, subject matter experts. One of the most underrated area of people we think in computer science, data science. They hold the key to the entire problem solving. Can you sit down with them, talk to them? Can you understand with them? Can you have a conversation? Can you strike a conversation with them over a cup of tea? These are the key things to in life. There's no formal structured way of doing any problem statement. But yes, if you can do that, you are a big winner and you're a big differentiator in this game. And I'm sure you must be thinking on those lines and you must be working on those lines.
Absolutely. And thanks for the insights. And
Thank you.
definitely, like, the data is not necessarily only in tables, as you mentioned. Like, you can speak with people as well who have domain knowledge. So you
You
can
have to
get
speak
some
with
data
people.
from there.
You will have to see. I am not the withholder of all the knowledge in the world. That's the truth of life. Let's accept that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, thank you both of you, Matangi and Atul, for showing us that data science also has accompanying data art that students should also be focusing on. And it's not about the accuracy of the models, but the impact on the lives of people and the business as well. Also, thank you for leading large companies and the nation to being more data driven. And we look forward to staying in touch with you and really helpful all of your insights that you shared today. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Mudit. Very
Thank you,
interesting
Mudit.
questions.
Thank you.
And Atul, I really got to hear on your experiences with National Security Council. Proud to have been part of this panel.
Thank you. Pleasure is mine.
Thank you.
It's an honor to be with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good
Bye.
day.